I'm going to spotlight her video right now. So this is Jacqueline. Thanks for coming on. So she's based out of UK. She lived in 4 different continents. She's been in the fashion industry for over 16 years now. Let me just make sure I don't butcher your laugh over here, Jacqueline. So she's been doing that for over 16 years. She wrote a couple of books. So she's an author. She's a speaker. She's spoken at fashion conferences around the world. Definitely established. She's passionate about African fashion, all aspects of it, from sourcing, design, all the way down to delivery and making money. She created a consultancy company, and she has a platform essentially to help people like you, me, turn our passion into a successful business. Did I miss something? Did I butcher it? Please keep me honest, Jacqueline.
There's so many things I can say. Hello, everybody. Jacqueline Shaw, and I go by the term African fashion business coach. Just explain, I'm from the UK. You can hear my accent, and I'm been working in the fashion industry for nearly 20 years. I don't physically work in the industry right now. I don't need to move that way. I don't work in the fashion industry literally right now as a designer as I used to do, but that's what I was doing, is working for brands like Puma, Russell Athletic, Fila, a retailer called CNA, which is like a Walmart, you can think of a Target in Europe, as a designer. So I do sportswear, swimwear design, casual wear, men's, women's, and I've done kids and babies, but mostly women's and then men's. So that's been my background professionally as a career. And then 10 years ago, exploring my own heritage from being British born to Jamaican parents, so first generation British born Jamaican, to parents who've come over, but my grandfather was from a group of people called the Maroon Tribes, and they were seen as runaway slaves in the Caribbean islands, in Jamaica, in Haiti, and some other places around the Caribbean. And it made me want to explore a bit more. I've always been exploring African history, but I wanted to explore more about the Maroon people and the links to Africa. And that's what led me on an amazing journey through Africa. So I've been traveling to various countries. Haven't been to all yet. That's my mission. But to go to various countries and meeting with manufacturers, artisans, everybody does things with textiles, manufacturing, footwear, apparel, printing, everything, homeware, all kinds of products to do with arts, to do with textiles and fashion. So now, because of that, because I did that, I explored this, I did a master's degree in ethical fashion where I focused on Africa's supply chain, from cotton through to the retail, manufacturing, designers, fashion shows, that whole industry. And I now help brands, retailers, and designers who want to get into Africa, who want to explore the region for their sourcing and textile sourcing and manufacturing, garment manufacturing, and more. So yeah, I'm a business coach now, I'm a consultant, and I do that for small brands as well as larger organizations. And yeah, I've been speaking at various events like the House of Lords, FIT College in New York, Italy, I've spoken out there, and just various places around the world. So yeah, I love it. And I'm here to speak to you a bit more about that and help you to explore that for yourself.
Perfect. Thank you, Jacqueline. Appreciate it. So for the benefit of, because you have so much expertise in the wide area, for the benefit of channeling your expertise into our audience today, there is a questionnaire that folks have filled out. I hope you can see it. So we do have 70% of folks who have answered. So I'm just going to end it and share the results so you can see. Can you see it, Jacqueline?
I can. Where are you in your journey of building African fashion business? Okay. So about 3/4 have an idea.
Okay.
But no experience. That's fine.
So here's how I'm going to start. I do have a question. I'm just going to pose my question, and we're going to get into the breakout rooms and the group work. So essentially, I wanted to get your thoughts on, I mean, obviously most of us, if not all of us, are Africans. And I was just curious to know if fashion, African fashion, doing business or sourcing in Africa, is it more a is it a sound business decision, or is it more a sentimental one because we want to do business back home with folks back home? Does it make business sense or no? And one of the reasons I pose this question is a couple of years ago, I was trying to get in there myself, and I Googled it, and all of the suppliers were out of China, right? So there was a bunch of items on, I actually ordered them on AliExpress, if you guys know about it.
Okay.
So I saw a couple of things. So I was thinking, once you and I started talking, I was thinking, well, why are we talking about Africa? Is it because, we're African and we love it so much, or does it make, the most business sense? I'll let you enlighten us on that.
Okay, so everything's cheaper in China. Let's just put it that way. Everything is cheaper in China because they've got the supply chain there. They've got expertise for a long season, and they've had investments, or they've got a more dynamic industry set up there. So if you want to just do a business that may be African inspired, then I would say, if you want to go to China, that's purely down to you. I do support African trade. I do encourage those who work with me or who come under or in my community to look into trading with Africa, because when you're doing trade, you're increasing the GDP of a country, and in this case, multiple countries. And that is what's going to change industries. It's going to change things like job creation and so forth. You're going to be invested into a country. So if you're there getting like wax print fabrics, which is typical, people call it African print, and you're getting that from China because there's many producers in China, but then you're going to be manufacturing the garments in your home country, but you're not even touching Africa, but you're calling it African fashion brand. You're not really supporting the continent. So it isn't cheap. It's more expensive to do in Africa. It's more challenging. It's more work. And that's why you need to have I set up what I'm doing to be that guide for people, because I've done it myself. I set up my own business. So I'm not just talking from, my behind. I did something of my own, plus I've got my industry experience, and I brought the two together. So it's definitely going to be a decision that you choose to make. Some people do start because, my mother, my auntie, my grandmother is from Nigeria, whatever, I want to produce in Nigeria. But that may not be the best country for you in Africa, but you can still some people do have that sentimental kind of reason why they explore making in Africa.
Perfect. Thank you. Makes total sense. Now we're going to get into the group. I call it the group study, essentially. So a couple of instructions. Number one, I'm going to present what the case is, and then you guys are going to get into rooms, couple, maybe 2 or 3 together for about 3 minutes, and then I think what my suggestion is that the first thing that you guys want to do is pick who is going to talk, right? Here's what's going to happen. You guys are going to go into a group. You're going to try and answer the question or figure out the best way to answer the question. Then you guys are going to come back together, and then Jacqueline is going to assess the answers that you guys are going to provide, and we'll take it from there. There's going to be a 30 seconds countdown, right? Just to let you know, hey, we're about to close the breakout room. Does it make sense? Any question? No? Good. All right, cool. Let me try and set it up. I don't want to mess it up right now. So I'm going to first of all create the rooms, and then I'm going to broadcast it. So let's do 4 to 5 people. All right, just gonna set it up right now. So 30 seconds, let's say 3 minutes, and boom. Okay, are we all back? Yes, we are all back. Okay, who wants to go? Just put your hand up, and I'll let you. Okay, is it Rose? Did I see with your hand up? Okay.
It's Janet Rose.
Janet Rose.
Rose Dunkley, yeah.
Okay, you go ahead. I hear not enough time, not enough time. Okay, you go ahead, provide your perspective, and I'll
Okay.
have Jacqueline
So,
share
so
her.
okay. So what we suggested is that because we already have some type of seed money, we would go with seeking out the demand, because we know we have the supply coming from the source in those countries. So we're going to go with the demand. And how would we define to get the demand? We're going to start off with friends and family. We know that the best form of advertising is word of mouth. And once that grows, then we can go out to our cold market and reach the masses. And then we can start going on social media and advertising even bigger, so to speak. So that was our suggestion, just to put it in a nutshell.
Thank you. I'll just get somebody else, another person who volunteers. Who's a volunteer who wants to go? Don't be shy. Is that Stevia? No. Clara, you want to go? Just hold on. Yeah, go ahead, Clara.
Okay, we hadn't picked a person to speak in our group, but I believe we agreed that our first priority would be finding out whether there was a market for our idea, because it's just an idea. And as one of our members mentioned, it would be best to get into a particular niche, find your consumers, and then build on that before you put money into it. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Now the expert. Should we get? Yeah, let's just get one more person. Yes, you. Let me just unmute.
Well, in my group, we didn't even get to appoint somebody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
But one of our team members suggested that it's after the idea, you should know your customers first. When you get the idea, at least get to know your customers and everything. Also, we're in the midst of brainstorming it before our time ran out. But yeah, she suggested know your customer.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Jacqueline, you go ahead with your expertise and enlighten us. What do you think were good or bad, or what would your recommendations be?
Okay, I got a lot to share. Let me just see. Okay, so yeah, so in the group I was in, I agree with what everybody said is great, first of all, but you definitely need to have the customer there before you push something out. These days, there's so many ways to do that, and what I have when I do my training with my, I've got a membership club, and what I do with my customers, my clients, my students in my membership club or in my coaching clubs is that talk about the 3 pre-actions. So the pre-actions are you can pre-sell, pre-validate, okay, and you can. That has to do with the sourcing, but don't worry. With your customers, you can pre-validate them. So that means that you're going to ask people questions. You want to know what it is that is of interest to that kind of person. You may have an idea of this is the type of person, your ideal customer avatar. This is the kind of person that you know would buy your product, okay? You've got a name for them, you've got a life for them, and you're speaking to them, but you want to ask them questions. You want to put surveys out, as somebody said. You can go into Facebook groups or other forums and listen to people. Look at the questions that they're saying, answer their questions yourself, give some value, but you can then learn from them what is it that they need, what is it that they're missing, what language are they speaking. You make notes of these things. So when you're then putting out your messaging and your content prior to launching, you're going to speak in the language of that person. So I knew that the people that were coming to me, they were concerned. Their fears were that they don't have the fashion experience. They want to start, but they don't have industry experience, or they've never traveled to Africa. So can they actually start a business in Africa? They don't have contacts in Africa. And the biggest fear, I'm going to go get ripped off, because that's what happens, isn't it? But there's all these fears and concerns, and I would speak that language. I'll speak to the fears, I'd speak to the desires, and this is what you would do. And all of this is called seeding. So prior to a launch of a product, you want to seed. This is a marketing strategy and tactic. You seed things. You don't talk about the product right yet, but you're seeding it. You're getting people excited. You're getting them interested. Like, oh, what is that? I just launched a project, a new program, sorry. And I got it more, it was filled by 150% of what I planned, because I took a whole month to seed the concept without even mentioning it. So when it was open, everybody jumped in. They were bought already. I hadn't even created the thing to start with, but then I worked out, is it of interest to them? Yes. And then they bought. So these are some tactics that you can be using. And I train my members on this as well, on how to do these things. So you want to call people out, you want to convert them, and then you want to court them, which means going on a date with them, making them feel nice so that they stay as a customer. There's so many things I could share, but that's giving you some of the insight.
Perfect. So looks like we're all back on. I picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry, folks, to provide their answers. Armel, Nancy, Chuka, Yoma, I think, and Serge. So, Armel, you look so excited. So I'll let you go ahead and start out first. So how will you solving it? Or your group will go about solving it?
Our group, I think we kind of go along the same way. It really depends on where you are in terms of your business, or you know, if you're a small player or you're not an established company, you're not just gonna go and fly to Africa and talk to people there. I think the first thing you do is always trying to get some type of contacts. You can do some online research, get some names, get flyers. We're getting more data from Africa. I mean, it's always the hardest part about doing business in Africa is getting reliable data. But now we start to get some data. You get to talk to people first before you even travel there. But eventually, you got to go on the ground yourself and talk to those people. But initially, you do some initial research and get some contacts and maybe exchange a couple of times on the phone before you even schedule a trip to Africa.
Thank you, Armel. Nancy, what are your thoughts here, if you don't mind unmuting your mic?
My group, I was saying that based for me, I have maybe some contacts on the ground, which could probably go check for me, maybe send pictures and stuff. But my other members in the group also mentioned two things, that it depends on, you might have to do research on what type of crafts people want. And then you might also have to hire a consultant who is an expert in the field. And fourthly, it depends on the value chain. If you're at the beginning or at the end of the value chain, are you the person buying from the retail person at the end, then you ship and then you sell, or are you buying in bulk? So depending on what level, whether you're at the beginning or at the end of the value chain, will determine how you go about it.
Thank you. Chuka, I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes, you are, Chuka.
Okay, thanks. What were your group opinion on this, or direction on this?
Okay, so our group kind of use a mirage of the options. So we kind of feel like we use a little bit of everything. So initially, we would use our friends and family that we already have on the ground. They would kind of be the qualifiers or the refers and kind of let us know the options, opportunities that we have on the ground in terms of finding suppliers. Once we have that, then we then think that you need to go on the ground. We do believe that you need to go to the ground, you need to see what the products are, you need to hold them, you need to be able to speak to the suppliers, understand the needs and how you can get those items. But we do also say that once you kind of create that or establish that relationship with the suppliers, that's when you can continue to leverage like online, like Zoom or like a Join Me or like a Google to continue the relationship and continue the business. So it's kind of a little bit of both, leveraging all those little aspects to kind of help along the chain.
Thank you. Let me find, I hope I'm pronouncing Ijoma or Yoma. Sorry, go ahead.
Germany.
Oh,
All
my
right.
bad.
So for my group,
Yes.
we do we do feel like it's much better to, of course, traveling back to Africa would be an expensive trip, and we feel that it's better to leverage on already existing connections back home, friends and family, friends, people we know who know someone in sourcing out suppliers and getting stuff done. And like we also felt like it on what level you are in your family, and doing a little bit of everything at stages will not be it probably be too expensive. A consultant in if your brand was like a very well established and there's more money, maybe you could get could explore the options of a consultant, but at stage level most of us are, we feel like that we could do a little bit of everything ourselves, getting sourcing contacts from contacts we already have back in Africa, and pushing it from there.
Okay, thanks. It was cutting out a little bit on your end, but let's have Jacqueline provide her expertise on what you could gather from what was said.
Okay. So again, from the time I started my business 10 years ago, this was one of the main questions. Where can I source in Africa? Who should I work with and which countries? These were the three key questions I kept being asked. And I made a mistake, like what many people do, which is go to friends and family. In my case, friends, obviously, because my family are from Jamaica. But I got in trouble. I got in trouble, and this is somebody with a load of experience in fashion. I got in trouble because I didn't validate that person. Sometimes we think, okay, our family's on the ground, they're there, they can go and find people, and then they're just going to look for what I call the one tailor on the roadside, the people who are there just sewing what they think is right for you. But you have to validate that person. You have to pre-vet them, pre-validate. Do they have the skills? I have a theory, a formula called the C2C formula, and it's looking at their capacity and capability, okay? Can they actually make the product that you are looking for? Can they scale to the level that you want to scale? Can they scale and grow with you? Not everybody that says that they can make things can do what you need to do for your business. Can they do it with the quality? Do they have the same standards for each piece that they make? Maybe your family may not be seeing this. They may not be seeing this, but they go and see one piece that's made. So unless you're industry people, you may not necessarily know exactly what to look for. So I would say it's the two main ways of doing that. My company, we're consultancy, we are a sourcing agency. So we've already got a network of manufacturers, artisans, suppliers around the continent, okay, around the full continent. So these have been validated, pre-vetted. I've visited many myself, as I've mentioned. So you would know that you've got somebody who's a professional who's gone before you, who would know who would be right for you. So you could come to my consultancy as one option. Another option, you go visit yourself, or you go to trade shows. If they're at a trade show, you know they've been pre-vetted and pre-validated. Okay, internet, many of the details they're old. A lot of the data is not fully existing in Africa yet, so that's a challenge. But I would say, as much as possible, try to avoid friends and family unless you know they're industry and business people already.
Thank you very much for that.
Hi everyone, Serge. Currently based in San Francisco, originally from Burkina Faso. Been in the US for about a good 13, 14 years. So my question goes back to the discussion point earlier around what is your first step? Do you find suppliers? Do you find markets, and so forth and so on? The answers that were provided, they felt to me like very expensive and long-term endeavors. So if I need to make sure that I'm fully listening to potential clients and I'm having a really good knowledge of what those clients are, right? If I could understand that if I'm selling wholesale, but if I'm selling retail and I'm selling to individuals, it feels to me like a very lengthy process, or at least a very costly process, right? In terms of maybe I need to do focus groups and the likes and the likes and the likes. So do you have an expedient way to validate the market that you may want to share? Maybe, throwing some dollars into some, I don't know, consultants or some other agencies that could help you quickly validate your idea instead of taking years in order to figure out exactly what your ideal customer is.
Okay, well, you can come to me. If you want me to do that, you can come to me. That's what I do. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I hear you, and I know you want to get on with it, but I do say that the slow route sometimes is the best route. I've been doing this for 10 years. So I've been to Ouagadougou, I've been to Kédougou as well. I went to see recently, they set up a new cotton ginnery in organic cotton in Kédougou. And, sat with the trade ministers there, with the president of the country, Burkina, and taking photos with him and having lunch. So, it's a journey. I couldn't do all those things without the journey that I've taken, okay? And the quick route is not always the best route. But if you wanted to say, there's somebody who knows this information, who can just get me the research that I need and can just connect me with the right people, then that's what I would do. But you'd be paying me a fee. So you'd have to ask yourself, if you don't have that finances, then would you go the route yourself to go and research over time or go and visit yourself? So there's either way, it's going to cost time and money. So the decisions will be down to you. It will be down to you.
Thank you. We'll get another one. Camaria, I think is the name. I hope I didn't butcher that. your name. Go ahead and first name, obviously we know it, where you're at and where you're from. And then your question, please.
Yeah. And I'm in Ottawa, Canada. And my question is two questions. In terms of sizing, we know that when anything is sewn in other countries, the sizes are a lot different. So, and I know how do we explain that to seamstresses and tailors in other African countries to explain, because I know even in terms of body size and shape, in other countries, they're maybe more familiar with the sizing there than, sewing for people here. And then the other thing is in terms of pricing, accounting for shipping, accounting for exchange of currency and things like that, and you still want to make a profit. So do you have any experience with that, where from one country to another, and you also want to pay your seamstresses and tailors fairly? So all of these things, I think that's, for me, the hardest part, because I always feel like I'm not making the profit. I want to pay everybody's, the same wages as maybe we have here in Canada, but really, it's going to be hard to do while you're,
I gotcha.
Yeah, thank you.
When it comes to the payment thing, there's something called the minimum wage versus the living wage. So minimum wage, when people are paying minimum wage, you don't really want to be paying somebody minimum wage, because that's what the government thinks is enough. You want to pay the living wage. That's the amount of money they need per hour, per month to be able to live on, realistically live on, pay their bills, take children to school, to eat, all of that stuff. So you need to explore a country's living wages, and you might want to double that. Some people double it because you may think it's really low, but you may want to double it, and then that is going to still be decent wage, more than decent wage, and it's going to be affordable for you. Now, when it comes to the sizing, yes, absolutely. I'm European. Even in Europe, actually, the sizes are different to the UK, and then what size are different to the US and Canada, and even if we're working with Japanese, and they're completely different body sizes and so forth, and Chinese. So it's different. So you usually, when you do that, you usually send a measurement chart, size chart, and then it's got all the figures on it. So it's in European, UK, American sizes all together. So the similar sizes and what the centimeters or inches would be in that. Depends their metrics or what, imperial. I always say to my clients who work with me is, get your patterns and things made in your country, get 2 versions, send one out. so that they know they can just cut from that pattern. Because not always are you going to get them to do the pattern cutting in that country. Better just to do in your country, send it out. Unless you're working with an actual factory, like a larger scale factory, that have like Gerber machines and all these pattern cutting machines and sizing sets and so forth set up, then send your sample out, send your measuring chart out and patterns. That's how I would do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Nancy, I believe you have a question. So Nancy, where you from, where you at, and go ahead with your question, please.
Oh, you missed Mercy.
Hi, my name is Nancy. I'm from Cameroon, currently in Toronto. My question now is, with the lockdown that is happening, is this, if somebody wants to do this now, how do we go about it with the lockdown? At times I'm having these ideas to do it, but I'm like, there's lockdown. How do I even start talking to people? Or how do I get these products here? And secondly, one thing that worries me is like people are buying like essential goods right now. Will we get to that stage where people start buying clothes? Because now everybody's trying to buy like food, hand sanitizer, and medical stuff. And my third question is, if we get it here, what's the advice for maybe distribution? Like if I'm here and I have maybe clients in the US, how do you advise your clients on their e-commerce or distribution, online distribution?
Okay, so the lockdown is not forever. We know it's going to open up. I would say to you, you can have loads of ideas. Like I just launched another business, okay, within this time. Even though I've got multiple businesses, I've just launched another one. And it means that my textiles are coming from Africa. And I'm teaching people about this as well, to set up the business. It's going to take some time. It's going to take time to build that business. And in this time should be where you're building your audience. Like I said, call them out, convert them onto your email list, and then court them. This is not something that's like, you think of it like dating. You're not going to just go on a date straight away. You want to take time to build your audience, get them onto your email list, newsletter list, and start to court them and send the messages. And when you open up, it's coming, then you know that they're going to want to buy it. Because it's a whole urgency factor as well that you're going to put in there. I've got the middle question, but the last question, I mean, you can work with fulfillment centers in your country. You can work with distributors locally. That's what you can do. I mean, if you're going to be a small business, you're probably not going to want to do that to start with, because it's going to be an added cost. So it's really just going to be depending on the size of your business. I don't know how big this is or how big your network is. So I forgot the middle question. I'm sorry, the second question.
What was the second question, Nancy?
The second.
Okay, never mind. That's fine. Too late.
Okay.
You missed it.
Okay.
Okay, the last.
Well, you can't.
The last person, Olga, I believe, is that the last one? Yes. You go ahead and pose your question. Olga, can you unmute yourself and pose the question? So, where you from? Where you at? Where you from? And your question, please.
I'm from Cameroon and living in Toronto. My question is, I've started a business a couple of years ago. I have a couple of customers, but I want to know what is your advice to increase my, to go out there and to have like more customers, because I feel like I don't have the personality to go out there and speak about my business and like to talk to people and have more customers. And I feel like just going online is not enough. So is there any type of personality to have, or should I find someone to go out there and find customer for me? So that was my question.
Do yourself. I mean, I'm very introverted. I'm not really this kind of person who's always out here. But I've learned to do that because, you know, I never used to be the face of my business. I used to be behind the scenes, but I knew that I had to learn to be the face, because people would hear about this Jacqueline Shaw. They'd read. I've got a book called Fashion Africa, and I had that. People wanted me to speak at places, so I needed to be at the front of my business. People want to speak to you, and I don't know if it's you're French speaking. I can hear the accent, and you're in an English speaking, well, French and English speaking country. Maybe if it's easier for you to do in French, focus on French speaking. Do it in French if it's more comfortable for you, so you can just be relaxed at doing that. But it would help if it's you. Later on, you can get sales people to go and sell for you. But if you can, do it yourself, or just get a business partner who would be the marketing, sales, in your face kind of person.
Okay, thank you. We only have 1 minute left, so let's just sneak in one quick question. I believe Chuka is the one who posed the question, and you're going to wrap it up. Oh, I guess she's not around. I see her camera is closed. Let's go to Anu, if I can find. Yeah, go ahead, Anu. And this is the last person.
Thank you. I was going to ask, how can I obtain funding to grow or to sustain a fashion business? Because it's such a huge strain. Spending out of my pocket all the time, trying to grow it. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of like pulled back on the whole thing. I don't know how other people are doing it, but what advice do you have for someone like me who wants to sustain a fashion business? Because the returns aren't as quick, and they don't stay. Like whatever you earn, it goes right back. I mean, I guess that's the case in every other business, but how can I receive funding?
I'll be honest, funding, banks and things do not really like to fund fashion businesses because they don't see it as it's a profitable business, but they see it as a high risk business, okay? I literally self-funded, well, I've always self-funded my business. I've leveraged being in a full-time job for most of my business life. So I only stopped a few years ago working for somebody else. So I funded it that way. Right now there's loads of grants and things out right now. I don't know which country you're in again, but if you're like, here in the UK or things that I'm seeing, there's government organizations that are giving grants and funding out right now. If you can see things right now, business loans even. So there's some business loans here in the UK and government grants. You do have to do funding applications. So that's something that you might, like I'm doing one at the moment, but I'm getting a fund writer to do that for me because they're more experienced. So you might need to get a fund writer for the grants, but business loans may be the way, but you have to do your figures to make sure that you can do that. But leverage your job so that you can live your life and you can use some of that, and then you want to scale. So as I say, build for scale and build it to sell so that you can then leverage some of that and you put it back in. You don't just take the money out and you spend it on your holidays, you reinvest. Yes, you can.
Can I quickly make a suggestion to the lady who just asked about the getting funding?
Sure. Over time, I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but go ahead.
If she's in the US, I would suggest contacting the small business loan at the SBA administration, because they are there, especially for minority, I hate the word minority, but minority women. They do have loans for minority women. And if you have a good business plan, you could go through them.
Okay, thank you. And this is going to be the last comment. Definitely there's a question here around contacting Jacqueline, so definitely that's going to happen. Thank you very much, everybody. I just want to give a round of applause to Jacqueline. Thanks for coming out.